When you hear the term water crisis, what pops into your head? Probably a dry, cracked riverbed, right? Or maybe an empty tap. But the real story is so much deeper, way more complex, and believe it or not, it's not just about a simple lack of water. So let's dive in and really unpack what's going on with our global water crisis. This quote from economist Kenneth Boulding really hits the nail on the head. Our water crisis is the perfect example of what happens when we demand infinite growth from a planet with very, very finite resources. It really makes you stop and question this whole idea of endless expansion. Okay, so just how big is this problem? To get a real feel for the scale, we're going to look at India, a country famous for its massive rivers, but also a place that shows us just how fast this crisis is unfolding. And the numbers, well, they're pretty staggering. Now, what's really wild here is just how fast this all happened. In only 60 years, the amount of water available for each person in India just plummeted by nearly 70%. We're talking about going from over 5,000 cubic meters a year down to just over 1,500. That's not a slow leak. That's like a dam breaking. And that drop brings us to this, an official designation. A country gets labeled water-stressed when its water availability dips below 1,700 cubic meters per person. India blew past that line over a decade ago. So let's be clear, this isn't some problem for our grandkids to solve. It is happening right now. So the natural question is, okay, if we're running out, why don't we just find more water? Seems simple, doesn't it? But the most common big engineering solutions, well, they come with these massive hidden costs that we absolutely have to talk about. This is usually the first idea that pops into everyone's head. Let's build some huge dams, store up all that river water, and problem solved. It's that classic 20th century mindset. But does it actually work the way we think it does? The reality is a lot messier. Once you factor in the true social and environmental price tag, these megadams often have a terrible return on investment. We're talking about displacing millions of people, wrecking entire ecosystems downstream by trapping vital nutrients, and blocking fish from their migration routes. It's a huge price to pay. All right, so dams are complicated. What about going underground? The Earth has these vast reserves of groundwater. Why not just drill more wells, go a little deeper, and tap into those aquifers? It seems like a much more direct solution. Well, here's the kicker. Look at where all that groundwater is actually going. Over 90% of it is pumped out for agriculture. It's not mainly for our taps at home or for factories. We are draining these ancient underground reservoirs at a totally unsustainable rate, mostly to grow our food. And that leads to a pretty terrifying forecast. If we keep pumping like this, nearly 2/3 of India's groundwater sources are going to be in critical shape in just 20 years. We are literally draining our planet's savings account with absolutely no plan to refill it. Okay, now for the most ambitious idea of them all. A giant nationwide plumbing project to connect rivers, moving water from so-called surplus areas to the places that need it. On paper, it sounds like the ultimate fix for floods and droughts. But, and this is a huge but, when you dig into the details, the plan starts to fall apart. The cost alone is just astronomical. We're talking up to a quarter of the entire country's GDP. And beyond that, there's a massive debate on whether any river truly has surplus water to give. And the ecological damage from re-engineering the entire landscape, it's a total unknown. So far, we've only been talking about quantity, how much water we have. But what if I told you the bigger, more urgent crisis is actually about the quality of the water we do have? This is the part of the story that we just don't talk about enough. This chart right here should be a massive wake-up call. Over 70% of the surface water in India, the water in the rivers and lakes you can actually see, is polluted. That means even when the water is physically there, it's often too toxic to use without really expensive and difficult treatment. So what's the main culprit? It's this. We are basically using our rivers and lakes as open sewers. More than 2/3 of all the sewage from major cities is just dumped, completely untreated, straight into our water sources. And this has a very real, very tragic human cost. 400,000. That's the number of deaths every single year in India that can be traced back to diseases from unsafe water and poor sanitation. This isn't just an environmental problem, it's a massive, ongoing public health disaster. I know, this all sounds incredibly grim, but what if the solution isn't another giant concrete project? What if the answer is to start working with nature instead of constantly fighting against it? Let's switch gears and look at a much more hopeful, sustainable path forward. The whole idea boils down to something called watershed management, and honestly, it's a beautifully simple concept. Instead of just letting all that precious rainwater rush away, taking our soil with it, the goal is to slow it down. You want to make every single drop of rain work for you. Just picture two different landscapes in a rainstorm. On barren, empty land, that rain is a destructive force. It causes erosion, flash floods. But on a healthy, vegetated landscape, that same rain is a gift. It soaks deep into the ground, recharges the aquifers that feed our wells, and it ensures a steady supply of water long after the rains have stopped. And the best part is, this isn't just a theory. It's a whole toolkit of practical, often low-cost things we can do. It's about protecting forests, building simple terraces and trenches to slow the water's flow, storing it in small local ponds, and, this is key, preventing pollution from getting into the water in the first place. It's all about managing water as a local, shared resource. So, here's the big takeaway. We need to completely change how we think about water. The goal isn't just to find and extract more of it. The real goal is to become caretakers of the entire water cycle, to build a system where water is respected, kept clean, and saved at every single step. And this brings it all right back home to us. This isn't just a job for governments. We can all play a part, from the simple things like using less water at home to being aware that every single thing we buy has a water footprint. We can support local conservation groups and, maybe most importantly, just talk about this stuff and share what we know. Let's end on this thought from Margaret Mead. A problem this big can feel overwhelming, I get it, but history shows us again and again that real, lasting change always starts small. It starts with a new way of thinking, and it's powered by people who care. The future of our water isn't going to be written in concrete. It's going to be written in the health of our watersheds.